One of the biggest challenges I see for entrepreneurs is when they lose sight of their purpose. For most purpose-driven entrepreneurs, they start their businesses with a sense of what their purpose is. They're excited about making an impact and making a difference in a way that lights them up. And they begin their business, and then over time, the business gets less about that purpose that they started with and more about all the mundane tasks that are required to keep a business open. It's dealing with team issues, hiring and firing, and keeping the numbers up, and keeping light bulbs replaced and toilet paper in the bathroom. And over time, all these mundane tasks can start to have an entrepreneur start to forget what their purpose that they originally started with was. And the problem with this is that when this happens, then the entrepreneur starts to doubt a lot of things. They doubt their business, they doubt their team, they doubt themselves, they doubt life. And when this happens, they tend to make poor choices, hiring the wrong people, taking on too many things, trying to get back that sense of enthusiasm and purpose that they started with. They start to be driven to success by more of fear, like keeping the numbers up and trying to feel more alive than they were originally with purpose. If this has happened to you or somebody you know and love, I'm here to tell you there's a biological reason for this. And that reason is that our purpose is connected to our emotional body, right? And it's a good thing it is, because it's our emotional body that moves us to take action. That's why so many of us are willing to do things that make no logical sense. I mean, if we were motivated to take action by our logical mind, then none of us would start businesses in the first place, because it's far too risky. None of us would have kids either, because that makes no logical sense. I mean, they're expensive, they never say thank you, they don't help out, right? So it's our sole purpose, connected to our emotional body, that moves us to do things that make no logical sense, but fill our life with so much joy and fulfillment as a result of it, and really help us discover what we're made of and what our greatness is. Now, there's the reason is that the emotional body is connected to the limbic part of the brain. And when that part of the brain is lit up, our cognitive brain is dormant. And it's our cognitive brain that articulates in words and language. So if I were to ask you why you do what you do, what are you most passionate about? What's the impact you'd love to make in the world? If you can feel the answer to that question so much more powerfully than you can speak it, that's the reason. The biological, I call it the limbic cognitive disconnect. And the problem with this is that words distinguish things. The more distinctions we have around something, the clearer it is. The clearer we are, the better choices we can make. If we can't distinguish our purpose into words, then we can't communicate it to others, and it's the way that we lose sight of it over time, and our business starts to be more about light bulbs and toilet paper and numbers staying up than it was the purpose that we started with. I discovered this in working with a client years ago. His name's Ron DeSandra. Ron came to me. He was a chiropractor of 30 years. He said, Demi, for the past 20 years, I've just wanted out. I don't want to scale my business. All these coaches keep saying scale, and I don't want to scale. As we got working together, one day I got curious. And I got curious about those 10 years that he didn't want out. What motivated him in the first place? So I started asking questions and taking notes. And then I was looking at the notes on my screen, and what I noticed was something interesting. I said, hey, Ron, can I play with your words for a minute? He gave me the liberty to do so, and I rearranged his words and took a little bit of my own liberty to interpret what I was feeling from him and read a statement back to him. You see, when Ron started with me, he thought he knew what his purpose was. He thought his purpose was to be a chiropractor. But as it turns out, what I really saw was that wasn't his purpose at all. That was just the mission that was fulfilling the purpose. You see, what his purpose was to help people maximize their potential in their lifetime. And he was doing it, the chiropractor was to remove the interference in the body so that people could maximize their potential in their lifetime. And when I read the statement back to him, Ron went quiet for quite a while. At first I thought, oh crap, I really screwed this up. But then he got emotional. And he said to me, Demi, that's why I became a chiropractor in the first place. And I went, phew. First I was relieved, and then I saw how phenomenal that was. And what was also just as phenomenal was the months that followed, the enthusiasm and the fuel for action that Ron got back in that one conversation by putting words to his purpose, it didn't diminish over the months that followed, it increased. He used that statement to bring in team members that aligned with it. He told me, he said, Demi, I know exactly if it's the right team member for me, because when I read them the statement, if their eyes light up, then and they say things like, this is exactly what I'm looking for, I know they're a good fit. And in the months that followed, he said, man, now that I have a team that's aligned with purpose, man, they anticipate my needs because they are also fueled by the purpose that is distinguished, that's clear, that is you can speak about it in the office. When that happened, he says, Demi, now I can scale. I'm not done helping people maximize their potential in their lifetime. So from that day on, I started working with helping people distinguish their purpose with words in several different ways. Today, the latest version of this process I call the miracle paradox. The miracle paradox is, I call it this because it's full of contradictions. You're going to find your big life purpose in the most unsuspecting of places. It's within your greatest pain. And the premise of this is that pain is your purpose and your message is your medicine, right? And you see, because your purpose and your message is partially informed by your pain, you won't do it perfectly. And there's a reluctance for leaders to step into, really being a stand for their purpose and their message because they don't do it perfectly. When in reality, it's because you don't do it perfectly that if you're willing to step into authentic leadership, that makes you the perfect person in the world to be a stand for this message in the world. Because you can speak about this message from the breadth of the shadow of it to the light. And when you do this, you're able to cut through all the noise out there and speak directly to the hearts of your people. And when you do that, that's when your message becomes your medicine, because you're speaking about it. And when you become willing to share the stories of your pain and your challenges in service to another human being, you start to change the way you tell those stories and the way that you associate with it. And that's where the medicine becomes even more potent. So I've been taking people through this miracle paradox process for the past probably year now. I really fully distinguished it when I started working with my TED Talk coach this past year, Mimi Donaldson. And it was when she was able to take me through similar processes that I take my clients through that I'm convinced you can't take yourself through, because I couldn't do it for myself. You just can't see the water you swim in. And in doing that, over the years, it's refined into this process. And what I see happens is when somebody goes through this process, it's like all of the pieces in your life start to come together, and just your whole life makes sense in a way that it never has before. It makes sense why you feel inclined to do this. It makes sense why you don't feel inclined to do this, or this has been a struggle, right? I did it at the last Soul Purpose Live. I sort of shifted gears when I heard everybody's intentions and what they wanted to get out of it. And it was the most phenomenal Soul Purpose Live ever. We'll continue doing it at future Soul Purpose Lives, because what I saw is that it really helps you point to a singleness of purpose, and then you can do purpose mapping and mission mapping that really helps everything be really clear, and really kind of it turns into, like I call it, kind of your authenticity compass, that you can navigate through all the choices in a very simplistic way. It's just amazing. So for the first time ever, I've been wanting to take a group through like a coaching group that will be doing Zoom calls, and my schedule has just prohibited it, haven't been able to do it. But after I saw what happened at the Soul Purpose Live and helping more and more people with this miracle paradox, I want to get it out to more people. So in 2020, I'm going to be doing it's going to be a miracle paradox coaching group that it would be an 8-week course. We're going to be helping everybody who signs up. We'll be helping you distinguish your purpose and your message. We'll be doing purpose mapping that will include part of that purpose mapping, mapping out your economic independence, but mapping it towards your big life purpose. See, everything that you do is given in action by this big life purpose. And when that is distinguished, things just make sense. When I did this for myself, I saw that my big life purpose was really about creating more unity and inclusion in the planet, right? I have 4 missions that are given by this purpose. 1, being the best human being I can be. 2, my family. 3, my coaching. And 4, Wealthy Women Now. And when I saw that, I had already started Wealthy Women Now, but I fought starting it for 2 years because I didn't want to exclude men. It made so much sense to me when I saw that. And then the conversations that were already going on in the group of how does a woman join the membership, and if they need to leave the membership, they can leave the membership, but they don't leave the sisterhood. That became even more important, and our ideas and what we were doing to fulfill that became more important and were things that I'm more committed to as I see the purpose of my life, right? Because having an exclusive women's group of high-performing women that's all about inclusion became a very important conversation to me, right? So included in this email is the details and the logistics about the course. If you're interested, reach out to me. Some people ask that if, is that per person or per couple? The price of $3,600 is per person. Now, the calls will be recorded. You're welcome to share the recordings with your spouse, and they can go through the process in the recordings. But to participate in the calls, I'm maxing it out at 15 people because this process is really important to me, that anybody that signs up gets to enough time in the calls to be able to fully distinguish their miracle paradox. So if you have any questions, hit me up. If you're interested, let me know. I'm really excited. It's the first time ever I'm going to be doing this virtual coaching group. Thanks for playing.